here's Chris Maher, host of FFM93 Live.
All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back here to FFM93 Live, episode 20. As I already butchered the intro, as we're 20 seconds into this. But lots to talk about today. Obviously did not have a podcast this past week, as I was up the Poconos, like I mentioned before. So again, we have a lot to talk about from where we last left off with Bill Matz on episode 19, which was a couple days ago, last Sunday night. Again, a lot of good stuff. Tristan, what's up, buddy? Thanks for tuning in. There is a lot to talk about with this Flyers team. From like I said last time we left off. Let me just tweet this out here real quick. So just by looking at the way that the team has played, right? I mean, if you're looking at this, okay, so the last episode with Bill Matz, we talked about the 5-game homestand the Flyers had coming up. You had the Islanders, which the Flyers beat them 3-1, so they broke that streak. Again, everything in that last episode was more negative, right? They were on the 10-game losing streak, stuff like that. What's up, Chris? How are you? Tristan asks, do you see GVR playing tomorrow? It depends. I'll get to that in a minute. They ended up losing to Tampa Bay 4-1 in a game where they didn't really play that great. A lot of scrambling. They had that like 4-minute shift where they were stuck in the defensive zone. And then the Flyers took on New Jersey on Saturday, and honestly a pretty good game regardless of the score. Again, they had that like weird couple of minutes where they just kind of forgot how to play hockey again, like I've talked about for most of the season. They end up losing that game 3-2. And then you win that game against Colorado. So in a 5-game homestand against teams that the Flyers easily are worse than, in the Islanders, Tampa, Jersey, and Colorado, and then you have Washington tomorrow, the Flyers are 2-0 in this homestand. So I think there's something to say about that. Nothing like, nobody wants them, I guess, to really like win or anything like that because of just, how the season has kind of gone. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Vortex jersey is fire. I appreciate that. Again, the Lightning are very good, and Tristan kind of mentions that as well. But again, last night's game against Colorado I thought was pretty good. I mean, for what it was, the Flyers played 58 minutes of good hockey and then almost blew it at the end, which is, again, that's been a common theme for most of this year, and that's when you start to see that these type of themes. I think a lot of it has kind of been too that they really don't have any room for error. And I've talked about this many times where you have a team like Colorado, right? And I know the Avs are missing players. They didn't have Lehkonen, obviously Landeskog. There's been a lot of different guys that they just haven't had for Colorado, and it's been really rough for them. And I think most of it was the Flyers had to take advantage of that, but also you can't discredit the Flyers for that game last night. And I guess for going up against a team like Colorado, and look, I get it, they're missing a lot of guys, and McKinnon only played 5-6 minutes of that game, not even. So it is what it is, but you can only deal with the team that you are I guess handed or dealt. I guess the hand you're dealt. So again, it's not like it really takes away much of the Flyers from what they did. Travis, what's up, brother? Thanks for tuning in as always. Always appreciate you coming in here. Again, I think most of that game last night, there were 3 key things in that game, and they were all from Carter Hart. And you had the save late on McDonald on the play from Rantanen along the wall. He passed it over to Newhook, and McDonald was kind of wide open. Really nice save from Hart. I initially thought it got blocked by McEwen. The other one, the breakaway save on Kaut when it was 3-1 Flyers, and then the save in the third period on Kale McCarr off of the turnover from Patrick Brown. 3 really, really great saves. And Hart's been great this year. And I personally think he really hasn't been talked about much. And again, the Flyers are struggling, so that's part of it too. Chris mentions here Hart was absolutely fantastic too. Yes, he was. He was great, and he's really been good all year for this team. There's no if, ands, or really or buts about it. If you're just looking at last night's game again, and I'll pull up NHL.com here so we can get some of the more of the you know legit stats and all of that different stuff. I think the one thing that was good for the Flyers last night too was their power play. The Avs have struggled in their penalty kill, and um, just overall, I don't think the Avalanche have had a great start to the year. I heard today on the Jeff Merrick show that they've used 22 forwards already, which is insane because we last year used 42 players in total in an 82 game season, and they've only used 22 forwards. That's just one set of players. So again, if you're looking at this, the Flyers, they outshoot Colorado 34-32. Faceoffs were pretty much dead even, 51% to 49. The biggest thing for me in that game too was the penalty kill. The Flyers penalty kill was very good. I mean, outside of the early goal from Newhook, they did a really, really good job of their penalty kill. And then the one thing I noticed was as soon as the Avalanche got a penalty, or excuse me, a power play, it was momentum for them. In the first period, the Flyers it felt like the Flyers in the first period were kind of just not ready to go off the jump a little bit. And then that's been an issue for how many years now? But, when you go up against a team like Colorado, like some of these other teams that you're going to play, you have no room for error. That's the biggest issue with this. And with this roster is the Flyers have their own injuries too. If you're comparing it to Colorado, they don't have, as many, and the Flyers don't have Couturier, they don't have Atkinson. The Avs, I think, have like 5 of their top 6 players out, but still, you can't take anything away of what the Flyers did. They still played a really good game outside of that. Chris asked me here, any way for you to pull up the high danger scoring chances? Feels like the Avs still had more than us, but could be wrong. I actually have Natural Stat Trick open for another segment. Let me pull that up. It's a good question because I'm curious. Let me see here. Go through the Flyers games. Got to go all the way down. The full report for the Flyers, the high danger chances for were 4 and against were 9 for that game. 30.77% for the Flyers and 69.23% for Colorado. So 9-4 in that. My computer is freezing a little second. Here we go. There we go. We're back. That was a little weird. Yeah. So again, if you're just looking at the game in general, chances for in the first period for the Flyers were 15. Colorado had 22. Colorado actually led in chances for in every period, 13-10 in the second, and then 18-12 in the third. It didn't feel that way though. And again, that's just chances for. That's not high danger chances for. The high danger chances for, again, like I mentioned, were 5-1 Avalanche in the first, tied 1-1 in the second, and then 3-2 Avalanche in the third. Again, some of that can be, again, I kind of feel like that might be off a little bit. It didn't seem that way. Chris says, so hard is my franchise. That's what you're saying. He's ridiculous, bro. Yeah, dude, he's insane. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, you have the goalie to build around. And, if you're looking at the heat map, a lot of those chances were in tight of the net. The Flyers had a good amount of chances in tight too. And Yuriev last night reminded me of Kemper when they last played Washington. Like, he was just like off. And the Flyers were just getting pucks through to him, and the power play took advantage of that. And the power play last night goes 2 for 3. It was last going into the game last night. I believe at 14.1% for the season so far. I always look at the Fox Sports standings, and Jason Robertson leading the NHL in goals is something I didn't think I'd see this year, but he's just incredible. Again, that's a different topic though. If we're going off of power play percentage and the Flyers, again, the Avalanche 31.8% on the power play, which is insane. Flyers right now are 30th on the power play in the league at 16%. So going 2 for 3 last night helped them. They have 13 power play goals on the year on 81 opportunities through the 26 games so far. And one guy that's actually really helped that power play has been Konecny. Like Konecny, I think, and again, if anybody in the chat here, if you guys want to call in, remember, call or text 267-939-1216. Again, Konecny alone, he's an all-star. Like he is the Flyers all-star this year. Like there have been a lot of good things from Konecny, a lot of good things just in general on what has happened with this team. And again, they've struggled, but he's been the one guy that you can kind of look at as like, all right, Konecny's back, and the Flyers kind of have a little bit of a mojo. And you saw that. I mean, since coming back, he's got 3 goals. He scored and last night's goal was an empty netter, which was against the only team he hadn't scored at in his career. But again, Konecny has been good in the sense of like he just has more of that like oomph to his game. Like he's a different type of player. And last year was different for him because he had he had a lot of stuff going on last year. I think that was pretty clear. Like I know I believe he had a son. I believe his kid was born last year. Him and his girlfriend were obviously dealing with that, and he just looked off, right? So when you look at it that way, and you kind of see that some personal stuff can be involved, that can kind of take a little bit away from a player. But Konecny, man, he's been incredible. I mean, he is their all-star. If you're looking at Konecny and just his numbers, right? I mean, just alone, okay. If we're looking at just his production this year, and if you're looking at just like underlying numbers and essentially what he's done for this team, his high danger chances for last year through 79 games played, he did 48.59%. So around 50%. A couple years before that, in 1920, when he made the All-Star game, he was at 52.29. That's the best of his career so far. This year, he's already at a 31.82 percentage, and he's played 6 less games. Like he missed 6 games for the Flyers. He's played really, really well. I mean, the bumper on the power play, he's looked good. To me, he's the all-star. I mean, I don't really think there's any debate. If he keeps playing like this, he's definitely, he's going to be the all-star this year for this team. Obviously you got to send a guy. So we'll kind of see what happens. Mr. Twizzler says, I lost a bet to my dad last night. He called a Flyers win. Serves me right. There you go. Chris Stumps says, Konecny and Hart, my 2 all-stars this year. Absolutely. Agreed. 100% agree. I honestly would throw Provorov in that mix in the sense of like the way he's played. But like to make the all-star game, like you'd have to like Provorov would have to put up more points and like actually like and this isn't a knock at Provorov, but like score like a couple highlight reel goals and stuff like that, like to get like, oh my God, look at Provorov this year. And it also, that factors into the team and everything. The Backyardsman says, do Chris a favor and click the like in parentheses thumbs up button. That is my dad. So thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, again, I mean, last night's game for the Flyers was good. Konecny has looked good. And I love that he was like Konecny last night too had a little bit more of a buzz to him. Like he to me, he's the all-star this year. Like the way that he was buzzing around the ice, like he like bumped Maher behind the net, like finished his check, and like Maher fell down. Like he was just kind of like giving it to him. Then there was another one on the penalty kill where he stripped him along the wall and went up and almost scored shorthanded. And then there was another play late where TK, like, he had the puck in the bumper on the power play and he lost it. He was trying to make a play, and you see him like he was just like about to like really like get mad at himself and just start screaming and cursing on himself. But again, That's the type of stuff that you like to see from Konecny. He is that type of player. And again, the only issue I had with that game was the almost epic collapse towards the end of it, where it was are we about to lose this game? Like, you go from 4-1, you think, all right, this is in the bag, and the Flyers are going to have a pretty nice win, to a gorgeous goal by Mikko Rantanen, like Cale Makar did last year against us. And he's dangled through everybody. And then Newhook scores again after he takes a puck off the face, and you're like, what is going on? And it was two bad shifts by Provorov and Ristolainen in that pair. And I know they've taken D'Angelo off to kind of, again, I don't really think they've been able to I don't really think the Flyers have been able to rely on many of the other defensemen. I will say, Sanheim, since I made that video where I was basically crapping on him and how he was playing, he's been great. Like, he's joined the Rushmore. He's been very active. Again, we got 7 people in here right now. If anybody wants to call in or text, you can call 267-939-1216, and I'll answer it here on the show. Again, Sanheim was really good. Again, Chris, good point here on Frost. I really like Frost last night too. I thought there were some really good plays he made, not just the assist. I know everybody's going to harp at him at points. I thought John Tortorella had a really good answer on him today in practice, and basically, like, what he was saying on him was, the poor, or the points have kind of been there, and well, not really been there, I guess I should say, and just more of, like, they need to see more of the actual points for him, and they don't want him to become a checker and all this different stuff. I thought Torts had a really good answer on him. I think they're starting to get there with him. Like, and it sounds weird to say, and look, I didn't think any of this stuff would be like overnight, but I don't think it would have taken this long, is just kind of where I'm at. So again, I thought there were a lot of good things last night, regardless of the almost epic collapse late. And the Flyers pick up a 5-3 win. If you're looking, again, if you are this type of person and you want the Flyers to make the playoffs this year, I personally, not that again, if they were to make the playoffs, it is what it is up until that point. Would I be upset? Probably, because it would take them out of the spot for a legit high-end player. But if you're looking at this right now, and we're looking at wild card standings, since the Flyers are very deep in the Metropolitan Division. If you're looking at the wild card, the Flyers up until this point, they are only 6 points out of a spot. They're tied with Buffalo. They're 8th in the wild card standings. That's just what I'm looking at right now. That's not, again, I'm just saying that is more of a report. The Flyers have actually scored the least amount of goals in the entire Metropolitan Division, and it's kind of crazy to even really think of. They've scored 64 goals. New Jersey scored 93. Carolina has 74. Islanders have scored 82. Pittsburgh has scored 89. The Rangers have scored 82, which is really low for the Rangers. 74 for Washington and 66 for Columbus. And Columbus, with all of their players out, from Voracek all over, right? And I'll talk about Jake in a minute. That is insane to me, and I get it. They've been killed with injury, probably more than us, especially on the defense side. Losing Werenski, losing Bean, losing all them guys, right? And now you have a team that is still scoring at a pretty low pace for the Flyers, but it doesn't feel like it did last year. Like, I don't get the sense that, like, the Flyers are worse than last year or on the same pace. Like, they might still be losing, but, like, I don't see, like, the game is actually watchable. It's still enjoyable. Last year was just horrible. And again, when you're looking at this, and genuinely, like, when I look at it, I look at a lot of it is their just overall system is so much better. But again, moving on from that, we got some practice updates for today. Van Riemsdyk is in a regular orange jersey. Seems like he's going to be ready to go. Per Sam Carchidi, he's possible for Wednesday unless the doctor concurs. No Legzinski, he was banged up last night. He tried skating at the TV timeout in the last game last night against Colorado, but he ended up going back to the tunnel. And then the Flyers today announced that they put him on IR, and he's on a week-to-week basis. So there's that. So no Legzinski, who I thought had a pretty solid game last game against the Avs. I mean, for not even just the goal, um, just in general, he's really been winning battles. He was just like, and that shift too was so unfortunate for him to get hurt on, because he genuinely was like all over it. Like he was winning battles low. He was keeping everything alive. Like him and McEwen, and I believe it might have been Delorier or Brown who were out there. It was kind of like a mixed type of change. And they all just won battles. And after the Flyers killed that early power play from Colorado off the Farabee tripping minor, they literally had like 4 or 5 minutes straight where the puck was just deep into the Avalanche zone, and they kept it there. Again, if anybody wants to call in, call 267-939-1216. But again, I think a lot of it for the Flyers right now has been just a lot of good things, in last night's game. And, overall, it hasn't been the best process, but if you're looking at the last 4 games, I think they've been much better. I think even though they've been losing, they had a tough game against Tampa Bay, and that happens, right? And you followed that up with a pretty good game against New Jersey, even though you ended up losing, and you ended up being the Avalanche, a depleted Avalanche team, but you still beat them. So there's that. If we're looking at Carter Hart too, and Chris mentioned this, Chris Stumpo mentioned this earlier too. Carter Hart has been insane. Like he has just been absolutely incredible. To me, he's another Flyers all-star. Again, I know it's pretty early to talk about all-star game, but you kind of still have to do that. And again, he's looked good. I mean, he's looked really, really good. I mean, he's got a 911 save percentage, 283 goals against average. He's 8-7-4 on the year. Just a really, really, really good season for Hart so far, and it hasn't been anything that he just isn't. And realistically, the only thing that has still been an issue is just the team in general just doesn't look as good in front of him, and there are still plays where like it's been more of a breakdown, and they still give up the goal. There have been some goals this year that he's given up that I'm like, maybe he could have had that one, but there's really nothing you can do. And I'm not blaming Hart at all when I say that. And I'm sure Hart would be the first one to tell you, I could have had that one too. So, if you're looking at it that way, I mean, I don't really think he's been getting much national credit. I mean, everybody talks about Demko and Sorokin and Shesterkin and all these other guys, but a lot of goalies have struggled this year. I mean, and like Markstrom hasn't had a good season. The Canucks and Demko have not been good, and Demko is hurt as well. The Rangers have struggled. Shesterkin's come out and called out himself, and Hart is playing really good hockey, honestly, on a really bad team in front of him. And I think for most of that, it's kind of been tough with the way that the season has gone for him, because again, he's just in that weird spot where like he's a really good goalie on a really bad team. It's like, how do you kind of judge him at the same time? Because he gets peppered a lot. And earlier in the year, everybody knows that, the Flyers were kept in games and were really just always in the game, or maybe a goal behind or something like that. But they were like 2-3 really, really good scoring chances away from it being like a blowout, and Hart was right there to just keep them in it. So he's had a really good start to the year as well, and he's really been enjoyable to watch. I mean, I honestly, I really don't understand, why he doesn't get as much credit, because he's been really good. Like, it's not even just the fact that like the Flyers are struggling or anything like that too. It's just like overall, he's just had a really solid season. But again, if we're looking at this homestand, the Flyers have Washington tomorrow, and that's at 7:00 here at Wells Fargo Center, and then the Flyers will go out on the road for a couple of games. You have Vegas Friday night at 10:00, the Arizona Coyotes on December 11th. That is at 7 o'clock as well, and that's on Sunday. Then you have the Avs December 13th at 9 o'clock again. That's in Colorado, and then New Jersey. So similar, couple of teams here. And then you have the New Jersey Devils on December 15th. But again, I mean, I think for most of what has kind of been the season so far for the Flyers has been they have won some games where the team overall has not been great, and they've also lost some games where they've had bad starts or they haven't played great for X amount of minutes or a shift or 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. And I've talked about that so many times, so that's kind of been an issue too. Is just kind of trying to find a way to that there's been times where they found ways to lose games. There's been a few times they found ways to win games. I don't think it's going to be exactly like perfect for them, to really start the year, or at least to I guess for most of the season. But again, overall, I think the overall process and the system and just the way that their structure is, they've played pretty good. And for if you're looking at it, a good amount of the building blocks, I guess you could say, for the team moving forward kind of starts with that system, and then obviously trying to get the the right players kind of in that mix too. So there's that, and I think for what this has been for the Flyers and kind of what it is for right now is you still have to try to weed out that process. And I think there's been some games where they've been able to weed out that process. And like a game like last night, to me, against Colorado, is a game that I look at that's like, I think that's a pretty good confidence booster for a team like this. Like you're a struggling team. You aren't like great by any means. You aren't really that good. You're kind of in just a weird spot. And like for some of those players and the legit team, right? I think a lot of that is just really, really good stuff. Again, if anybody wants to call in here, call 267-939-1216, or you could text me as well. That same number. Howard Frank here. Howard, how are you? Always good talking to you. It was a good effort against a squad that's depleted with injuries at the end of a road trip. Let's see if they follow up against the Caps. Agreed. I think that's fair. If the Flyers can follow it up, I think there's definitely was more there for the team. And look, if we're looking at this in the I guess comparison of like just the overall way that the Metropolitan Division is, and I did a video about this early in the season and how the Flyers have to be better against teams in their division, because last year they were just really putrid at it. And if you're looking at it now, again, like I mentioned earlier, the goal differentials for each team, but New Jersey, they're 24-1, but in first place, 41 points. Carolina, they've played better as of late. They've won 4 straight games. They are 14-6-5 with 33 points. The Islanders are 16-10, 32 points. Pittsburgh 13-8-4 with 30 points. The Rangers have struggled. They're 12-10-5 with 29 points. If you're looking at the Capitals, they are 27-11-12. Or excuse me, 27. They're 11-12-14. They have 27 games played. Flyers are 9-12-5. Just overall, I think a lot of the division has been obviously very good. And if you're just looking at Columbus, 8-13-2, they've really struggled. They've been killed with injury too. But again, if you're looking at division and the way the Flyers play against some of these teams, that game against Pittsburgh, I don't think it was the Flyers' like best effort. If you look at the game against Washington, again, that was a winnable game. Milano scored that goal late, and now you play Washington again. And in that game, you didn't have Lawton and you didn't have Konecny. So maybe the Flyers do win tomorrow. Maybe they can kind of carry that in. A couple more things left before we end out for the day. World Juniors early preview. It's going to be really, really exciting for the World Juniors. There's been a lot of good stuff. If you're looking at the World Juniors, right, you have Gauthier for USA, and that's most likely what's going to happen here. Bill Haynes, what's up? How are you? Susan Lowe, thank you for the support. I'll bring up your comment in just 1 second here. Go GA for USA is what that seems like for the Flyers. That's basically a given. He's going to be one of the top players for Team USA. Brian Zanetti can also make it for Switzerland. And it seems like Tuomala is like a 50-50 for Finland, but not like too sure. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. I don't think Finland has announced their roster yet. I did not see anything on that either. But again, if anybody else wants to call in, call 267-939-1216. Susan Lowe says, love the Flyers, love your channel, love your family support. I heard Jake is out for the season. What happened? Susan, thank you so much for the comment. I do appreciate that very much. Jake out for the season. Yeah, so Voracek, he's dealing with some concussion symptoms. And for Columbus, they've been killed with injury, and it's another one for them. And for Jake, he did immediate availability yesterday. I was able to catch some of it. I'm getting a call here from Tristan. Let me answer this now. Hey, Tristan. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, Chris. What did you think about the game yesterday?
I thought it was a good game. I thought there were some good things. I thought for going up against a Colorado team that's
really good.
Yeah, they're good and they're injured too, which is part of it. But for the Flyers, they you can't really take anything. I guess against the Flyers out of that, you have to look forward. I don't think it's anything the Flyers didn't do. I think they took advantage of it. And I think for them, it was a good win in the sense of, we're going up against a good team, and they were able to kind of seal it late. Because again, when you almost blow that and Konecny doesn't even celebrate the empty netter, you kind of know that they're like, boys, like, what's happening here kind of thing. So
hey Chris, I have an idea. If JVR is dealing at the trade deadline, do you think we should trade JVR for Sam Reinhart?
I don't even know if Reinhart would be a possibility. I don't even know if the Flyers will.
His cap is pretty high.
Yeah, and well, that too. I think he makes what 5.5 million. I don't really think Reinhart would even probably want to leave Florida. I don't know his actual contract. I guess if he's like a trade or anything. Go ahead.
Reinhart can score.
He can score, yeah. I mean, he's got 1 year left after this year at 6.5. He's an unrestricted free agent. He was signed 3 years in Florida, so I would assume he probably stays. I don't know if the Flyers will actually trade JVR. I think if they do, he'll probably just be a free agent. They could move him at the deadline if they're able to move money, but I don't really know about that. But we'll see. I'm not too sure though. I don't know if Reinhart would be something that the Flyers want to target right away, because again, you have to. He's makes 6.5, and we're kind of stuck at cap, and it makes sense if they were to move JVR for him.
It's even not dead. I do have a Reinhart jersey right now too, actually.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so maybe it's possible. I'm not too sure, but thanks for calling in, buddy.
Hey, Chris. I heard yesterday you said something about Hayes. What do you think about Hayes' game yesterday?
I thought Hayes was all right. I thought for most of for the season, I've been critical of him. Like, I think there's more defensively. And again, I don't want to make it like it's personal, like against Hayes. I just haven't really loved the defensive, I guess, style that he kind of plays. I'd like to see more there. Offensively, he's been very good though, and I have liked him on the power play. I mean, for right now, they're kind of injured. Well, not really kind of injured. They are injured, and I've liked him in the sense of, again, offensively, but defensively, I think that there's more there. So.
All right, Chris, I'll let you go. I'm about to leave right now, actually.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye, buddy. That was Tristan. He's a good kid. So again, getting back to Susan Lowe's comment, again, apologize, we got a call. But again, if anybody else wants to call in, Susan, Bill, Stumps, if you're in here, Mr. Twister. It doesn't tell me who's in here. It just says how many people are in here. So that's kind of where I'm at. But again, Jake, he's dealing with concussion, and he said in his media availability that he had documented at least 7 or 8 concussions in his career. And for Jake, he's dealt with that in the past. Now, I know, look, I think everybody has their thoughts on Voracek and what have you, right? Everybody knows Voracek was one of my favorite players here, or was my favorite player here. Not one of, was my. He was just such a good player. I went last night and I was watching all the highlights of his, and the way that he played on the wall, the way that he had just that swagger to him, like he was just such a good force when he was here. And it's so unfortunate if his career were to kind of end like that for Jake. And he mentioned he doesn't think it's he doesn't really think he's going to retire. He's going to do basically everything he can to get back in the lineup. So it's unfortunate. The actual play was he took a high stick in the Global Series on November 4th in Finland against the Avalanche, and it brought back some similar, similar feelings that he had before in previous concussions. And Rick Nash had a similar thing, and he mentioned that he talked to Rick Nash right away. So I hope it all clears out for Jake. I hope he's okay. Definitely thinking of him, praying for him. Hopefully, if he can get back and not just play hockey again, but also live his life in a normal way again. He's got his kids and all that stuff too. So kids and a family and everything. So I just again wish Jake all the best and hope all turns out well for him. Bill Haynes here asking me a question: where do you see the front office after the new year? Are we seeing a lame duck GM and such? I'm not sure what you mean by lame duck, but where do you see the front office after the new year? I'm not too sure. I mean, I think for the front office up until this point, I think it is what it is, right? I mean, it's tough because I don't know if they'd missed the playoffs again. And again, I say if just because I don't say if because I think they will. Missing the playoffs, I don't really think 3 years in a row of missing the playoffs is going to really help. Chuck's case, but I think for the most part, it's going to be tough to kind of go off of that too, because again, they're injured and I think there's a lot to really go into it. Susan Lowe says, I agree. I agree with you, Chris, about Hart. I'm so afraid that they will trade him for draft picks and a top scorer. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't really think the Flyers would even really consider trading Hart, honestly. But one thing I did want to mention up here is the trivia question, because the trivia, something I do each episode, and there is something in here that I kind of wanted to tie into the power play a little bit. So question for this week is: the Flyers scored their most shorthanded goals as a franchise in the 1990-91 season, and how many did they score? So it's basically how many goals did the Flyers score shorthanded, and that amount leads them ever in shorthanded goals. They've come close a couple times, but they actually scored 16 shorthanded goals that season. So that is the trivia question for this week here, episode 20. But again, going back to the World Juniors a little bit, again, Cutter Gauthier for USA would be huge. He's having a pretty good season right now for Boston College, and they've struggled a little bit. Boston College, Gauthier right now, 12 games played, 8 goals, 4 assists for 12 points. Just again, a good season, and you see a lot of him on the power play and the way he shoots. I'm really curious to see how they kind of use that, because USA has some good players and some good shooters. So we'll see. I think Gauthier could be that type of guy. Zanetti last year played pretty good for Switzerland, played top pair on the Swiss team. And Tuomala for Finland, again, is 50-50. We'll see. But a lot of the guys have kind of aged out a little bit for the Flyers and just in their prospect pool in general. But this is the big announcement that I had here for episode 21. A lot of excitement for this one. I tried getting this for a while. There was a lot of conversation, I guess, kind of back and forth, and I really wanted to get this one to work out. So for episode 21 of FFM93 Live, former Philadelphia Flyer, former captain of the Flyers, Dave Poulin, will be joining me for episode 21. I don't have the full details yet on like the time and like when it's going to air or anything like that, but Dave Poulin will be joining me for episode 21. So it's kind of like the Sixers announcer when he's like, get excited, like that kind of thing. Like that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I'm very, very excited for this. As many people know who know me, I love Flyers history. I love all of that stuff. So interviewing Dave Poulin is going to be really, really cool. And, he is a guy who had a really kind of like crazy way of getting into the NHL, out of college, going to Sweden, and one of the scouts being with the Flyers and all that. And the Flyers just picked him up. It was great. Just amazing. And, he had some really, really good moments. It's going to be fun. Bill Haynes, thanks so much. And Eric Wisniewski, can't wait to see Dave. Thanks, everybody. But again, Dave Poulin going to be joining me for episode 21. And the Flyers take on the Capitals tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. Going to be a pretty good game. Again, the Flyers up until this point, there's a lot to see, a lot to kind of work out. But yeah, everybody, thanks so much. Again, from Eric, Bill, Susan, Howard, Chris Stomp's Backyards, Mr. Twister, Tristan, Travis Ballinghoff, and more. We had 14 people in here this week. Thanks everybody so much. We're going up and up each week. So again, really do appreciate it. SeatGeek, as you see scrolling across here, Flyers Fan Mania for $20 off purchase of tickets over $50. That can be for a Flyers game, Sixers game, concert, anything. Use that code Flyers Fan Mania in all capital letters. Sub count, we're still at 1452 out of 2,000. We're on the road to 2K, so hit that subscribe button if everybody enjoyed the podcast. And again, if you missed it, if you missed this live episode, it will be on Spotify and Apple to listen to as well, just like every other episode for the audio version. And yeah, follow me on Twitter at Chris Maher. And yeah, thanks everybody so much this week. Really do appreciate it. And yeah, Dave Poulin next week for episode 21. So stay tuned for that. Thanks everybody so much. And I'll talk to you all again soon.